Dewo. Dewo is an Igbo Nigerian word that means long life to all of you. And that is what I want to wish upon each one of you gathered here, wherever you are, underneath the sound of my voice. It is my pleasure to welcome you to another episode of Chiism Live. It's a wonderful day to be alive, I must say, and I would like to welcome my co-host, UD, Dibia Ochoaja, UD, on your heart. UD, good morning.
Good
What
morning.
a
How you doing? Look at that. I
very
got my
good.
Chisholm
Good for
shirt.
you.
I'm styling
I
now.
I love it.
Yes.
Cheese. Where can
Yes.
someone get that if they want it? Where can they get it? Where
You
can they get
want
a beautiful shirt?
well, it's not on sale yet, but we're going to have it on sale very soon. And if you want it, we'll let you on this show, the near future, we'll let you know where to get it. So,
Oh my goodness, that is absolutely beautiful. I love it. I love it. I would like to get mine. Well,
all right.
I am entitled to one right
Of
away.
course, you don't
So
have to pay for it. It's all
yeah,
yours.
it's all right.
Yeah,
I
we'll get
want
you.
to I want to right now, just before we go into any discussion. You got your coffee? I got mine.
I got mine. Here we are, ready to
Oh my
go.
goodness. And that's the best coffee. My husband knows how to make coffee, and that's for sure. But anyway, I just want to remind everyone to please go to our Facebook page, Global Faith Ministries of Chiism, and join us there. We have lots of posts that I'm sure you will find interesting. And also visit our YouTube channel where you'll find some of the past programs. And as a matter of fact, you can also watch the show on Chism of Africa, and also visit our website. We have a website that's just full and loaded with information for all of you, because I get a lot of people asking me questions, and I just have to send them to the website because much of what we talk about is right there already on the website. So for anyone who is interested, those are the places that you go to connect with us. Before I go any further, I'd just like to welcome some of our guests, if I may use that expression, viewers. We have Nos Faratu Ndewo. She says, greetings, greetings. Thank you for joining us. And I'm sure that as we go on, there'll be more people who join us. We have a very interesting show today. Very interesting. And let me just show. There she is. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are looking forward to participating with you today. Now, we've got, like I said, we've got a very interesting show. Uh, we want to search each other's minds and hearts. And quite frankly, I think that a lot of us believe in things that are served on a platter to us, and we don't ask questions. And because we don't ask questions, we don't even know if we're following what the directives that's given to us by our different religious practices. And so today we're going to discuss, and down the road, we're going to be talking about other religions and how that compares with ours. We're not here to chastise anyone. That is not our goal. But it is imperative that you make sure that you're being the best person you possibly can be based on what you're believing in, based on what you're taught. And it is imperative that we do research ourselves. Just because our religious practices says one thing doesn't mean we have to believe it. Sometimes we have to ask questions. Sometimes we have to ask, how is what we're believing working for us? And how is that helping us be the best that we can be? The topic of our discussion today is let Chineke use you. Or for those who don't know, let God use you. And how is God using you? Depends, of course, on what you believe in. There are many, many religions in the world, none perfect, none better than the other. And I suppose mentally, that's what we all need to know. The one area that people need to really address is the principles that guide their behavior. And today we're going to talk about the 10 Commandments. And I find that some of my friends say one thing and do another. They practice completely something different from the commandments that's supposed to guide their conduct. So let us start today by discussing the 10 Commandments. What is it? What is the intention? What is the purpose? How are we using it? Who's teaching it to us? First commandment is, thou shalt not kill. Well, let me say this. I'm presenting this not in the order that it appears in the Bible, but randomly. And I can't think of a better person to address these particular topics than Dibio Chwaja, Judy Onyoha. Yes,
my pleasure.
yes. You know it.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not kill.
Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt not kill is the first one that we want to. The first. Most individuals, when they approach you, that's the first thing they tell you about the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not steal. Well, Judy, talk about that. What does that mean? Thou shalt not kill.
Well, first of all, thank you again for putting together such a great show, where we become better people after listening, or watching. First of all, the 10 Commandments is not a Christian thing, right? The Christianity doesn't own the 10 Commandments. I mean, there's no culture in the world that says that thou shalt kill, right? It's unacceptable in any culture. No culture says thou shalt lie. It's unacceptable, or thou shalt not commit adultery or bear false witness. Most human cultures have it. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in there, that these commandments has nothing to do with Christianity. It is something that has a commonality between all cultures. And then the second thing I want to talk about is the idea of the commandments themselves, right? It's these commandments, to me personally, represent natural human instincts, right? Thou shalt not kill is not, you don't walk around saying to yourself, I'm just going to go kill. I'm just going to go do this. I'm just going to go do that. You normally don't walk around, thinking about stuff like that, because when you are born as a human being from your own family, from your mother, from your father, into the community, you are taught certain moral principles of behavior. And one of those moral principles of behavior is that you shouldn't kill anybody. Whether you went to church or not, you actually get that right off your house before you even read the Bible or any holy text out there. Killing is it's a natural human instinct, right? But there are certain caveats. Why kill? If my life was threatened or in danger, or the lives of people that I love is in danger, killing as an option becomes almost imperative. Because if I don't kill the person trying to kill me, I get killed. If I don't kill the person trying to harm my family, they get killed. So for survival reasons of self, I am pushed to kill somebody. But that's the caveat. I have a reason to do it, and that reason has to do with my survival. If your reason is not to survive, if it has nothing to do with your life being threatened, then killing is not an option. In the old days and in today's world, we understand that the impulse to kill is human. But in order to be able to control that behavior, you now have penalties attached to it. You now have the idea that there has to be a valid reason based on both spiritual and civic laws for you to be able to kill somebody. Crime and punishment. To control that behavior or that natural impulse that certain people have, you have to have rules, laws, penalties to be able to control that behavior. So, thou shalt not kill. It's not a Christian thing. It's not a Muslim thing. It's not a Buddhist thing. It's a natural, instinctive behavior that human beings have. The only caveat is reason for killing?
Well, Nosferatu has asked a question. If you look on the screen,
Hmm.
very, very important question she has asked. You know, Kai Rittenhouse, the gentleman, the young boy who killed two Christians.
Uh-huh.
He killed two. I believe it was in Portland,
Okay.
and he's just been released on 2 million. Okay,
Yeah.
bailed out for 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
because it's Christians who released him.
Yeah.
So, at what point is that commandment relevant in
Well,
their lives to control their conduct?
let me put it this way. Have you ever heard the saying, the golden rule?
Yes.
Whoever has the gold makes the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Now think about this way. If we were in a position of power as black folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that guy would be out of jail? No, he wouldn't. That's what I was saying. Whoever has the gold makes the rules. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not this, and thou shalt not that. Just depends on the number one, the community, society, power structure, who is making those rules and who is enforcing those rules. I mean, if you have laws and you have people who are tasked with, enforcing those laws who are biased, you got a problem. And usually those people are in a position of power. The only reason why that guy is out on bail is because of those people who wield the power and the people that enforce the laws and the rules. That's the only reason why he's working. He shouldn't be walking, because if it was a black person or a Chinese or Mexican that done the same thing, they'll still be in jail.
And the jail is full right now with a whole lot of people who have done less. I mean,
Exactly.
something that can't even be compared to killing. And
Golden
they're
rule.
going to be there for years. So this whole concept of "thou shalt not kill" depends, I suppose, on who is believing it.
Not only
You see?
who's believing it, listen, here's the truth, right? Thou shalt not, religion, religion was designed to keep the poor from killing the rich.
I'm killing
Napoleon,
the
you
yeah,
understand?
yeah.
A lot of these rules are really for the poor. Maybe you can call them middle class or whatever. Those people that are not empowered, those
Yes.
people that are not in the position to enforce those laws, those are the ones the laws are for. Those people in the position to enforce those laws, the law is not for them. A cop can go and shoot a black guy in the back. You think there's jail time for that? Only one policeman out of 100 will end up in jail for shooting a black man or woman in the back. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So the laws, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not lie. King David killed, didn't he? He's a Jew, Israel, Judaism. Who in the Bible, in the Old Testament, that God put on a pedestal that was not a murderer or a killer? Is it Abraham? Name him. What is it? Ruth? Gideon? King David? King Solomon? Who in the Old Testament in Judaism that God extolled was not a killer? If you're doing God's work, I guess thou shalt not kill doesn't apply. If you're not doing God's work, then thou shalt kill applies to you. And not only that, if the same God that gave you the law that thou shalt not kill will kill you if you worship another God but himself. It's just about the golden rule. Whoever has the gold makes the rules. Those laws were not designed for those people that enforce or have the power to rule over us. It is designed for the people that are meant to be subjects to the elite. That's it.
And that's right, because if you look at some of if you look at the convictions, okay, it's usually the very, very poor people,
Yes,
that are convicted,
absolutely.
and and they throw away the keys, like Nosferatu is telling us, they get administrative leave when they kill poor people or
Yeah.
people of color. you know. And I'm not just talking, this is not just happening here. This is happening in Africa. It's happening everywhere.
Everywhere. It's the
And
same
they
thing.
do, you know, they say one thing, thou shalt not kill, but they do it and justify it at the same time. You know, that if you're poor and you can't get yourself out of, you know, out of your predicament, you are stuck. But the fact that this young man, after killing two people, the government put their power behind him. The stars, if you will, some of the stars, some what they call it, my pillow guy got his little 5 minutes of fame because he supported the president of the United States, Donald Trump. He bailed them out. They put money together.
As a matter of fact, just exactly what you're saying. Let's say you committed something and the crime is so heinous and they put $1 million bail on you. The general consensus is that you can't come up with $100,000, which is all they need, 10% of it, to get yourself out of bail. If somebody who can afford the $100,000, which is $1 million bond of the elite class, committed the same crime, they'll be out of jail in a minute. You will be in jail because you cannot afford to get yourself out. That's why the general understanding is that religion is designed to keep the poor from killing the rich. If you're poor, you will pay the price, whatever that price is.
In a heartbeat. No questions asked. Let's talk about another commandment. Again, as I indicated earlier, it's not in any particular order.
Yes.
Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not commit adultery. But you see that all the time. Even in the church, the pastor is committing adultery. Leaders are committing adultery.
Yeah.
And somehow the adherents of these churches are convinced that it's okay. Not for you now, but for the leaders, for the pastors, all those people who are in charge. So, supposedly, they're the ones getting away with all these things.
Exactly.
Again, let's talk about that.
Yeah. Again, these rules are for the poor. Right? The elite is not governed by these rules. Thou shalt not commit adultery is a rule that has universal application, regardless of what religion you belong to, regardless of what culture you come from, right? Regardless of the geographic influences on your behavior. Geography, then culture develops from that. And then, of course, you know, social way of doing things and all that stuff. It is also a natural human instinct, particularly for men. I don't know about how women think. I'm not a woman, never have been one, so I just can't tell you what women think. But I could tell you from a man's perspective. And a man's perspective is that men desire women, whether those women are betrothed to you or not. It's just the way it is. And because of the power structure in the society, men often are more powerful. In the old days, of course, women didn't really have any major role, especially in European cultures, to play. It doesn't mean that women were not queens and warriors and all that. They did. But the majority of a woman's position in the society was very subservient. So it was a way men used to control women, right? And also to control their environment. I'll give you an example. King Edward I of Britain, right, could not conquer the Scots. So he came up with a law. And that law was, even though the religion says thou shalt not commit adultery, but that law said any Scottish woman that gets married must first be bedded by a British soldier before she can go to her husband. If we can't, get rid of the Scots, we're going to breed them out. Okay? Thou shalt not commit adultery also has its own penalties, just like thou shalt not kill has its own penalties, and then depending on the extreme nature of it, thou shalt not commit adultery also has its own penalties. And the idea is for men, for example, to have a level of control over the woman that they chose to be with. And when you say thou shalt not commit adultery, you're talking about people that are married. It doesn't say anything about thou shalt not run out and go get a woman. Thou shalt not have a girlfriend. Thou shalt not have a boyfriend. It didn't say that. It said thou shalt not commit adultery. In other words, you can't touch a woman or a man in a committed relationship, right? That's what that simply means. And that particular behavior is governed in every culture. And then some cultures, of course, most cultures back then also take into consideration of the fact that a woman must remain pure before she gets married. She can't be with this guy, can't be with that guy, can't be with this guy, can't be with that guy. But I don't see anywhere where the law says that the guy can't be with this person or can't be with that person or can't be with this person. It's usually about the woman. It's usually about a way of keeping a woman subservient to a man in a society. The laws of adultery, 90% of the time, has nothing to do with the man. Because at the same time, they are telling you not to commit adultery. In some cultures, a man can also have more than one wife. So is adultery about going outside a relationship where there's one man and one woman? Or does it have anything to do with the acceptable social norms of commitments in a relationship where two women can have one man, or three women can have one man, blah, 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 and so have you. So it's an iffy commandment, if you ask me. It just depends on where
do you think that possibly, and I believe Nas Faratu had mentioned this, which is true. Women were very powerful, and this commandment is probably one of the ways to hold them down, because, like you said, it really seems like it applies more to the women.
Yeah, than guys.
Because more of the men, they do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
They do all these things, but they don't get penalized. But the women certainly do.
Yeah.
And then the women support them in church.
Yeah, because of the subservient. Again, in Abrahamic religion, right? Let's just get real with this thing. God is represented as what? A male.
Mm-hmm.
God's messenger is represented as what? A male.
Male.
God's son is represented as what?
Male.
A male. Now, there's nowhere in Abrahamic religion where God had a child and that child happened to be a woman. Not in Judaism, not in Christianity, not in Islam.
Mm.
And when you are reared as a baby in your household and then in the church and then into the society, you grow up feeling subservient to the male. That's why the preacher can get over it. He's a man.
Mm.
God is a man. His only
And
son is a man.
the punishment is always the woman.
He's a woman. In Islam, how many men get killed for sleeping around compared to how many women get killed for sleeping around? Abrahamic religious laws deal with two things. Number one, natural instincts of behavior. Number two, to keep women subservient to men. Because when you start to apply the punishment, women always get the severest part of the punishment. Mm-hmm. In the Bible, to kill in the name of, remember, all the people doing the killing in the name of God in Christianity are men.
And the Bible is written, by them, by men.
One woman
women are supposed to adhere to all these rules, not written by us.
No.
Because that nobody asked our opinion about any of these. They just talk together. The council of was it Nicene?
Nicene Council, yeah.
Okay. How many females were there?
None.
So these rules, these commandments, all these things, okay, have been written by men to benefit men.
Exactly. That's the point. I give you an example. You ever heard of Joan of Arc?
Yes.
Joan of Arc was a great warrior. She was a great warrior and fought a lot of battles for the elite and won, including the church. But the moment Joan of Arc claimed that God came in her dreams and spoke to her, the church turned against her. She ended up being killed. And the reason, who in the world do you think you are that God will talk to you?
Yes.
If a man has said the same thing, God came to me last night and he's doing all this killing for the church, he would have still been alive and probably lived a great life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In
So
the end, it's about money,
and
power, and control.
That's right.
That's it.
That's it. That brings me to the next one, which is really quite interesting. And again, we're not trying to tell people what not to believe, but what we're trying to get you to do is think about what it is you do believe and how that impacts your conduct. How is Chineke working in you? You can't be the best you can be if you're not following the right guidance.
Yeah.
Or guidelines, so to speak. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not steal. But I was watching a pastor that was quite shocking to me. Probably shouldn't have been, but he says that it doesn't matter that you are suffering through COVID. You may not have a job. Don't worry about that. But you've got to pay your tithe. That's stealing. Because you see, when you take something from somebody whose mind is at their lowest, when somebody's going through challenges and they're looking for a way out, and you tell them, give me all that you've got, that's stealing. Because the person who will give all that they have to someone else when they have nothing to work with, their mind is not theirs. So when you send out a dictate like that to your church members and tell them, it doesn't matter that you don't have any money coming from the government, you don't have any money, give it to me. That's stealing. But you want to tell me that shall not steal. As a matter of fact, Chiism, during this time of COVID, we have not asked anybody for a penny for ourselves, for our church. We have committed our own monies. We have given to others because we understand when people are hurting and you take from them, that's stealing. The election, that's stealing. If somebody has won an election, not just what's going on in the United States with the election here, we're talking about in Africa too, in the Soviet Union, well, in Russia, in Brazil. When they lose, they fight. They fight to keep it. That's stealing. Don't tell me about that shall not steal. That's stealing. Stealing is not taking somebody's money or just property. Somebody's mind is stealing. They stole our minds. African minds are stolen. Listen, believe it or not, when you don't open your eyes, when you can ask questions, but you act on accord according to what someone else asked you to do, your mind is stolen. When you have things that belong to you walk out of your house and you don't say anything, that's stealing. It's been stolen. This whole thing about thou shalt not steal, people wake the heck up. They're stealing from you every day. Now some people may steal for good reason. I think I've lost or tried. I don't know what happened. But some people may steal because they're hungry. Some people may steal because they don't have a choice. And when they do that, They are arrested. As Nurse Ferrato is telling us, they are arrested. They're locked up. They're put away. The keys are thrown away. You criminalize somebody who is at the lowest moment of their time. Now, I'm not saying that it's okay for people to steal. No, of course not. I'm saying there are situations where this happens. You cannot criminalize stealing. You cannot do that. The other thing I want to talk about is, thou shalt have no other gods before me. This is an interesting one. Thou shalt not have other gods before me. What gods? What gods are we talking about? If Chineke, I think UD is trying to come back in. Something must have happened where he's at, because he's not, doesn't seem to be able to get in, but hopefully he'll join us very shortly. Let's see if I can help him come back in. That's just you guys just hold 1 second. It's as UD trying to come in. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, well, we see you. You've come back in.
Yeah, I don't know what was happening, but I couldn't hear you. You were breaking up and all that. So I didn't know if it was on my end or if it was on your end. So what I did was I got off Wi-Fi and then plugged the cable directly into my laptop. And because I couldn't really tell where the problem was coming from. I didn't know if it was you or me. But anyway, here I am. I missed the last conversation you were having about thou shalt not steal.
Yeah, we should. Well, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And now my question I had asked was, what other God?
Exactly. That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, let's take this. I have to be very studious with this, right? So we all believe in most cultures that God, there's only one God, and that God created humanity, created the world, created our planet and the universe. That is not up for ridicule. This is the belief of most religions that believe in a God, believe that God created the world. And based on that culture, also have their own version of who the first man and first woman were during creation. But that's neither here or there. It's for another discussion at another time. Now, when God gave the commandment that thou shalt not have any other God except for himself, was he talking to the Chinese? Was he also talking to the African? Was he talking to the Amazonian, the European? Was he talking to all the cultures that believe in a God? Was he talking to those people that call God Olodumare?
Yes.
Was he talking to those people that call God Yahweh? Was he talking to those people that call God Chineke? You get my drift. Exactly which God was God talking about in the Bible? That is one of the most unknowing and very imperialistic commandment, because that commandment is written from the perspective of the Jews and not taking into consideration other world cultures who also believe in a God. So if the God in the Bible is telling me that the Chinese that also believe in a God, or the Africans that also believe in a God, have a different God, even though they believe that their God created the world, if that God is telling me that the belief in other cultures is different from the Jewish culture, then that particular God is false. And that God does not even understand himself to be able to give that kind of commandment. Because human geography is responsible for religious and spiritual cultures all over the world.
That's right.
The Eskimo cannot go to the Amazon and tell the person living in the Amazon to see God the way the Eskimo sees God. There is no snow in the Amazon jungle.
That's right.
And the Amazonian cannot go to the North Pole and tell the Eskimo to see God the way the Amazonian sees God, because there is no jungle in Greenland.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So that commandment is imperialistic, because the Eskimo is going down to the Amazonian and telling the Amazonian to forget the evidence of God around them, to forget about the anaconda, to forget about the piranha, to forget about the jaguar, to forget about the jungle, and start seeing polar bears and start seeing snow and walrus and tuna in the Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever God gave that commandment is no God at all, because that commandment is not preaching what we preach in African spiritual tenets, which is bidi can bidi, live and let live.
Plus,
it's preaching exclusive truth, and that's totally wrong. And I'm just not interested in that specific commandment.
Thank you. Thank you. And here's another thing. Here's another thing. And Nosferatu said that, and I agree. This whole concept of that, what is that? Thou shalt not have no other gods. There is also an effort to limit some of what other people believe in terms of who God is. Some people believe God, goddesses. Okay?
Yeah.
Some people believe that there's male, female. It takes male and female to create. We say Chineke, chi, female, a male, eke, female. It takes the two, both masculine and feminine energies to create life.
Yes,
when
true.
you start saying that shall not believe other gods but me and all that, it's that male God. That's what you're talking about. That's all there is. That's all you can believe in. So thank you, Nosferatu, for that. I actually agree with that. And the other thing that we want to talk about is thou shalt not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. But every day, you need, listen, come on now. Every single day, they do bad. People are doing bad things. How is Chineke working in you? If you believe that your God is sacred, you cannot use God's name to commit a crime. They do it every day.
They've been doing it since the dawn of time. That particular commandment has two purposes. Okay. The first purpose is for you to understand the, how do I put it? Not the power of God, but the omnipotence of God.
Yes.
Right? God is the ultimate authority for spiritual behavior.
Yes.
For what is accepted as good, for what is accepted as bad. Good and bad is all wrapped up in God. People don't understand that. You cannot separate bad from good.
Yes.
Because without either one, none of them exist. Right?
Yes.
Number two, it is to help conform your behavior so that you don't use the ultimate spiritual authority to justify your crime against humanity.
Yes.
But unfortunately, religion, especially Abrahamic religion, that stresses hierarchy of your physical being in this world, is designed to keep the poor from killing the rich. It is okay for the rich and those that are powerful, the ecclesiastics of this world, to murder and kill and use the name of God in vain.
Yes.
To commit their crimes. But it's not okay for the poor guy to do the same thing unless you do it. Yeah, unless you do it under the auspices or authority of the elite class. Right? Those people that killed and murdered and used the name of God in vain during the Crusades, most of them were prisoners, let out of jail. Most of them were commoners, promised the kingdom of heaven if they do the bidding of the religious or spiritual or religious elite, the Catholic Church. They went out there and murdered and killed and maimed and did all kinds of inhumane things to people in the Middle East until Saladin, stood his ground and defeated them.
Yes.
You understand? So using the name of word in vain is true, because you cannot use the name of God to justify acts of criminal intentions against humanity. But at the same time, that law only applies to the poor, because the elites, since the dawn of time in Abrahamic religions, have used that same commandment to murder, maim, and kill for power and wealth.
So the adherents of these religions, instead of being fearful, ask questions. They cannot tell you to believe in something, but they don't believe in it. Like you said, it's actually the whole objective is to subdue the poor, those who
Yep.
have no alternatives, those who are weak because of conditions. Okay, either because they're sick and they're looking for help, or they're poor and they're dreaming for help. That sort of thing. So they use these commandments. I mean, the commandments in general, if it could be adhered to by everyone, it's a good thing.
It's a beautiful
But it's
thing.
not designed for everything. But those who it is designed for don't ask questions. And that's why people can steal from you. They can do anything. Thou
Do
shalt
you know
not
why?
steal. They're stealing from you every single day. They still let me ask you, how in the world, and that brings up the next one. Keep the Sabbath day holy. That's the day that supposedly God rested, which is the seventh day, right?
Mm.
And we are supposed to go to church and bow down and honor him. Okay? But my question is this: why is it that it's in the church that all this, I'm sorry, people are not going to be happy,
Well,
but there's so much criminal activity?
well, here's the thing. Again, right? It goes back to one of the commandments that we were just discussing. Thou shalt not have any other God but me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Sabbath day is not a Christian culture.
Well, according to the Bible,
Yeah, they just
you're
can't, they
supposed
just
to.
can't get away with it. It's Abrahamic, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
the forebear of Abrahamic religion is Judaism, because creation was from Judaism, not from
yeah,
Christian religion. Christianity
yeah.
came after that. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, all brothers and sisters. They all wear the same cloak. It's the same thing. Their genesis is all the same. Abraham, the father of humanity, Adam and Eve. Muslims believe the same Adam and Eve and all that. There's really, the only difference between Islam and Christianity is that Christianity believes that Jesus is the Son of God, while the Muslims believe that Jesus is a messenger and that Muhammad is the last messenger of God. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it's another imperialistic way of defining God and annexing God as belonging to you, and then using that particular story to influence other cultures through a policy of blood and iron.
Yes.
You are assuming that based on the Judaism or Jewish culture, that the world is 7,000 years old, because that's how old the Jewish nation is.
Mm-hmm.
That story came out of Jewish history and spiritual culture. You're assuming that this Sabbath day, on the seventh day, God ended, is that the black man's, the Africans' history and culture,
Mm-hmm.
the Chinese history and culture, the
Yes.
Amazonian history and culture, the European history and culture. You're assuming that we're all 7,000 years old and that humanity came out of the Middle East.
To say it again.
You understand?
Yes.
So that is imperialistic, and that is just a way of making other nations feel subservient. And the only way that you can really accomplish that is through a policy of blood and iron. Now, if you go in to invade people and then establish this particular spiritual culture, and
Yes.
they resist you
Mm-hmm.
spiritually,
Yeah.
even though they are under the gun, they end up not looking at the Sabbath day or relishing the Sabbath day, because culturally speaking, they remain strong. They resisted you. They may have lost the physical battle, but they won the mental war.
The mental war.
Africans lost the mental war.
Yes. Oh my God. Have we ever? Have
You
we
see what I'm
ever?
saying? But I'm
Yes.
only going to excuse the African based on this. More than 400 years of subjugation, both by Islam, the Muslims, and the Christian world. Over 1,000 years of subjugation is enough to make any race of people lose their minds. And I think we, as Black folks, we've lost our minds. There are certain places in Africa now that cannot even trace their culture back 500 years because they've been Islamized.
Yes.
And gradually, this Christianized part of Africa is losing wind, losing its spiritual culture, and losing everything. And before I end, let me just say this. You've heard about smallpox, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And we know that the history of the cure for smallpox happened here in the United States. And the person that came up with the cure for smallpox was a black slave.
Yes.
From Ghana.
Can you imagine that? And we don't get credit for that.
We don't get credit. But that's not the tragedy. The tragedy is that in today's Africa, if a black person was to come up with a cure like that in the village, the African Christian would demonize him, call him a witch, call him a wizard, say that he's talking about some metaphysical blah, 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 voodoo this or whatever it is, even though voodoo is not a bad thing, but has been, you know, how do you say, misunderstood.
That's right.
We will look at the cure for smallpox in Africa today as witchcraft and wizardry instead of science. That's the tragedy.
You know what? Before we go any further, I would like to recognize two people who joined us. Woke Charles Ugochukwu, thank you so much for joining us, and we love your contribution. Please continue to contribute. And I also want to welcome Your Highness Dean Chimobi. Thank you so much for joining us. And yes, we are losing ourselves. We are losing ourselves, and it's time to wake up. It is really time to wake up. Okay? We cannot continue on this journey. It is killing us. Here's another one I want us to talk about.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not covet. In other words, thou shalt not hunger after something with such a passion that it undermines who you are. If you look at now, if you look at the Nigerian leaders, now this is one of the commandments. Don't go after something with such a passion, or particularly something that's not yours. Look at the Nigerian leaders. Now, I don't want to call this because this is, I don't know if it's hearsay or not. One of the governors is under investigation in the Southeast right now. Billions and billions, I'm not talking about millions, billions of money that's earmarked for road construction. You find a road that has sticks or rope, and they tell you it's $50 million, 50 million naira. They take the money that's supposed to be for the people and they put it in their pocket, and it doesn't bother them. They go to church every day. They go to church every day. They're the first person to quote the commandments, the first person to quote the Bible. But they covet things that don't belong to them. They take things for themselves. If someone else gets it, they will take it from that person. It's all about them. Talk about that, UD.
Well, that's another tragic situation that we found ourselves in Africa. First of all, the governor you're talking about, when he was running for office, guess whose blessing he sought first before he ran for office? The pastor.
Oh,
the bishop. Because the bishop has control of the people that go to church. And when he gives money to the bishop and gets his blessing, the bishop is going to tell the congregation that this is your man that God has given you. Put him in power. They'll vote for the guy. Now, whether their vote is counted or not, that's neither here nor there. Secondly, thou shalt not convert blah, 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 blah. That rule is for poor folks.
Yes.
Right? What you, as a poor person, as the one who's been stepped on, should worry about is what happens to you after you die. See, the fear and misunderstanding of the ever after is really a terrible thing on our psyche. Don't worry about what happens to you while you're alive over here. Worry about what happens when you die. Worry about being able to make it through the pearly gates.
Yes.
Or ending up in hell.
Yes.
Overlook, turn the other cheek so that he could smack you around. These people have been conditioned from birth to overlook those people that take away their freedoms and worry about what happens after they die. Your personal salvation is more important than your service to the community.
Yes.
The guy who is taking your money, who is doing all these things, understands that he shouldn't be doing it.
Yes.
But he also understands that you are not going to do anything about it because you're more interested in what happens to you when you die
When you die,
than what
that's
happens
right.
to you right now.
That's right.
Let me say one more thing before
That's
I
the
cut
con job. That's the con job.
In Africa, before the European came with their Bible and the Muslims came with their Quran, before slavery and colonization, your conduct was governed by your culture, age group system, tradition. We have certain taboos and certain lines that people didn't cross as far as their behavior is concerned.
That's right.
Christianism and Islam got rid of that boundary.
That's right.
So you have a society of people that are governed by everything foreign and nothing primordial to them. And if they don't have, what happens to your history when you don't have it anymore? You have a people running around in the desert waiting for rain to come. Could have been in the jungle.
It becomes his story.
His story.
His story, not your story.
The governorship, the government that you are running, everything that you are running in your daily spiritual, cultural, political, social, civic lives is foreign to you.
Yes.
And because you have no innate understanding of these systems,
yes,
because you don't understand that all human systems come from religion, primordial religion, cultural spirituality, you'll be wandering around in the desert waiting for rain.
Waiting for rain.
And it ain't coming.
And it is
That's
not
the
coming.
problem we have in Africa right now.
Let me take a moment and welcome Humphrey Ndibe. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your comments. We're glad that you're listening. And also, Charles Ukuna, thank you very much for joining us today. This is a really very important discussion because I feel very strongly that, sometimes you've got to make waves. Do you understand? And that's how water moves. Where stagnant water carries what? Nothing but disease. But a water that moves, right? Moves things to the direction. We need to stop being stagnant. We need to start moving. We need to stop accepting things that are fed us. There's an Igbo proverb that says, only a fool will say that his mother's food is bad.
We got a bunch of fools in Africa that think their mother's food is bad. African culture is bad. European culture is better. You're spitting on yourself, inferiority complex and what have you. And then we wonder why we're in this sense.
We wonder why we're the way we are. It has to change. Now I want to talk about honor your mother and your father. Well, that's nothing new. That's not a commandment that's new to us as Africans. We Africans loved our elders, our mothers. When you are born, the first God you know is your mother. The first God you know is your father, your chi and your eke. But now we're trying to emulate people who put their mothers and fathers in nursing homes. I saw something yesterday. I went to the store that really upset me. It was a young African-American gentleman with his elderly grandfather. The grandfather is hunched over, and he's dragging him. He can barely walk, almost tripping on himself, and he's just kind of yanking him forward. So I said, young man, is this your grandfather? He says, yes, ma'am. I said, but he's obviously in distress. Why are you dragging him like that? Oh, he's just acting. Whether he's acting or not, give him some dignity and respect, particularly in public. Why are you dragging an old man like this and you don't even care that he's in distress? Because we have gone to the point that the people who gave birth to us, the fathers who fought and worked hard to feed us, once they get to be a certain age, they don't matter anymore. Once they begin to struggle mentally, which is part of the passage of time, they don't matter anymore. The mothers who bore us, and took care of us till we become adults. When they start to age, which is a process of aging, we don't care anymore. We don't respect anymore. This is not African. This is not how we're supposed to act. I was so cross with this young man. I said, that man is your grandfather. He deserves better respect than that. If he's slow, take the time and walk with him. Don't drag him because you're in a hurry. That's disrespectful. But our children, very honestly, you know, you have parents begging their children to come around. Can you imagine that? Honor your father and your mother. When they get older, that's when they need you. That's when they need you to be around.
Well, we get caught up in our life in the modern world where
And we don't care. We don't call them. We
well,
don't
think about
visit
this.
them.
Think about this. Once you get to the age or a level where you leave your home, now you leave your parents' home and start your own nucleus family. Your parents now become those people over there, right?
Yes.
That you have to go visit. I suppose in the old days, your parents now live in your compound. They're right there with you. You take care of them. Usually, culturally speaking, your parents say, "Ncholo tamwam kam." That's why you have children, so they could be greater than you and also take care of you when you're old. And when you get to a certain age, all you're really doing is relaxing, playing with the grandkids, imparting, knowledge to your grandbabies, talking to elders in the community, having a little bit more communal responsibility in terms of helping to guide that community along. When you leave your house, you establish your own nucleus family somewhere else. Your parents now become those people over there that you have to go and see, as opposed to the way it was in the old days. Now, I don't know how we could mitigate that, except for the fact that the world is the way it is right now. And for those people that are able to have their families or can afford to have their mom and dad with them, that have a sense of culture and their responsibility to their parents, kudos to them, good for them, and all the blessings of Chineke upon them. And those people that are not able to have their parents with them, maybe your parents are in an old folks home, or maybe your parents are wealthy enough that they could take care of themselves. You still have a responsibility to look into, the welfare and well-being of your parents and make sure that you are always there to help them in their time of need. And even when they don't need anything from you, you need to be around to be able to, show them love and make them feel that life is worth living. Because old folks, when you get to a certain age, you start dealing with some things that are not very comfortable, both mentally and physically. And sometimes you need family and friends that look in and say, "Hey, how you doing, Mom? How you doing, Grandpa?" Blah, 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 to kind of give you the zeal to continue this life's journey, even though you know that you're getting to the end of it. Because as you get to the end of life, if you're getting old, it's not fun anymore. And the only thing that makes it fun is if you have love of your family around you. When you're able to see your life's work and enjoy your life's work, then it is worth living and wanting to be 100 years old.
I want to read something Your Highness Dame Chimobi has written here. The Creator doesn't want us looking for him in any actual place, but to find him within us.
True.
He expects us to do what he would do, and that is loving to one another like he would. In our conscious, he has put the spirituality we need to find him and live as we should. Our parents are there to be the guiding light to understanding. The
Absolutely.
problem, yeah, absolutely. But we should, our African children, African people should understand what the ancestors did. The ancestors understood the significance of the elders. The elders were not looked at something you throw away. The elders, when they say honor your father and mother, we knew that. These people have a world of information, okay, that we can benefit from. That's why, like in the village, I remember when I was a kid, you see the elders, they're sitting under the Iroko tree. And they're surrounded by young people, and the kids are all looking at them and they're telling them stories. They don't have them wilting away in nursing homes and all of that. Yes, I understand that sometimes because of financial constraints and the fact that the children have to work, and maybe the parents is very, very ill, and the kids can't take care of them. They put them in homes. But then this tragedy is that when they put them in homes, they don't even go and see them.
No.
So that means that that particular tenet of the commandments, a lot of people right now, if you see nursing homes, check out how many elders, mothers, and fathers are wilting away, many of them begging for death because they don't see their families anymore.
Yeah. Now, just hopping on what Dim Chimobi was saying, which is part of the construct of Chiism, right? Guardianism. We are products of our environment. You understand?
Yes.
In Africa, we want to be more European than African. And when you're raising kids and bringing children up, you usually are not bringing them up based on your spiritual, cultural tenets, right?
Yes.
They're being raised as something that they're not from a primordial perspective. African was never spiritually a Christian or a Muslim or anything else that is foreign. Africans had their own spirituality, and one of some of the important tenets of African spirituality was, number one, live and let live, biri kan biri. Then the other one is madubuchi ibeya. You are like God to your fellow human beings. So all your conducts, when it comes to your relationship with your fellow human being, whether it's your family, your friend, or just people in your community, should be God-like. The God you seek is in you. If you believe, as every culture believes, that thou shalt not kill, and you are immersed in that spiritual tenet, then you shouldn't kill. If you believe that thou shalt not lie, which is part of every spiritual code that I know, doesn't matter what religion you belong to or what culture you belong to, then you shouldn't lie.
Yes.
The God you seek is in you. You made those rules. There was no lightning bolt that came from the sky and wrote something on a rock like it did to Moses. That code is written in you, and the first time you got that code, you got it from your mother. Then your father reinforced it.
That's right.
Most of your spiritual understanding came from your mom. It came from the folklore. Atutuilu. It came from your culture. The African people, we have so removed ourselves from our primordial instincts, culture, religion, spirituality, whatever you want to call it. Those things that governed us before the European and the Arab came to Africa. We've just totally relinquished those things. Culture is dynamic, but you don't throw the baby out with the bath water. There's something called cross-cultural pollination. Every culture practices it. You take something from another culture that you think is relevant in your culture, and those things that are not relevant anymore, you jettison those things. But there are core principles of moral, spiritual conduct that you maintain. Think about this, Ogele. Did we have jails before white folks came?
Jails?
Yeah.
No.
But we were able to control spiritual behavior.
Yes.
Weren't we?
Yes.
So there are certain things that we used to do back then. All you have to do is look for those things that work for you, that is still relevant in today's world, and implement those things. And those things that are totally not worth keeping, get rid of it. But you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And as long as we continue this practice of self-loathing and hatred, we're in trouble.
We're in trouble. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Boy, oh boy.
Now,
that's a deep one that every day is violated, right?
It's violated left and right, but then it is such an important commandment because it ties into some other commandments. Violating that commandment can also rub off on thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not this and thou shalt not that. That particular commandment there is very important. You can bear false witness and get your neighbor killed because you want their land. And you figured if you lied about something, the neighbor will be gotten rid of. Now you get your opportunity to get their land or get his wife or whatever. That's a commandment that, like you said, is violated all the time, but it's a very important commandment because it filters into a whole lot of other commandments.
You know, did your charger.
Yeah.
Here, the part of that that bothers me is that it's used, even though it says that you should not bear false witness against your neighbor. Racism.
Oh, there you go.
Your neighbor who is black, or Asian or whatever, you discriminate against them. You say things about them. You want to, like the election right now, where they're trying to disenfranchise a lot of voters because of their color. I mean, there are investigations going on in areas where there are only black people. I mean, well, not only black people, but mainly people of African descent have been threatened to be taken away because supposedly there's in those areas they are claiming that the votes are irregular. There are so many irregularities and all that. So why those areas? That's bearing false witness. Why those areas? And a lot of these people are all religious.
Exactly.
They are religious. You look, don't tell me about your religion. How is Chineke working in you? Don't tell me about your religion. Show me.
They can, because people don't understand the difference between religion and spirituality, right? They look at the institutions as religion and they look at the ideologies as religions. Those are just exactly what they are, ideologies, right? Religion is simply an understanding that there's something greater than you, and that something must be the Almighty God, because you, as a human being, is not responsible for the life-sustaining forces, things that keep you alive, like the meat you eat, the air you breathe, the water you drink. You didn't manufacture or create those things. So you figure something greater than you did those things, and you owe them a ton of gratitude. That something becomes a creator, becomes God. Religion becomes automatic in you. Because you recognize that there's something greater than you. Spirituality controls your conduct of your understanding that there's something greater than you. Spirituality controls how you relate to your environment, understanding that if your environment is not, if your environment is not conducive, if all the right equations and things are not milling around in the right format, you will die. You cease to exist. Some of those things that need to be in the right frame and moving around in the right way and circulating and percolating the right way is your relationship with your fellow human being, your relationship with your environment. How do you relate to those things to keep the concoction, to keep the cauldron of life moving positively, so that you could be how do you say, you could be successful in life and enjoy all of God's blessings? That is what spirituality deals with. It deals with your conduct and your relationship with your environment and those people around you.
And like Your Highness Dim Chimobi is indicating, religion creates division, while spirituality is finding the creator in you.
Yeah, but religion doesn't create division because people don't understand what religion is. Christianity is not religion. Buddhism is not religion. Islam is not religion. These are philosophies that were put together by man to help you walk in the ways of the Creator, whatever those ways might be. Religion, in its etymology, is just an appreciation or understanding that there's something greater than yourself, and that something is Almighty God.
Say it again. Say it again.
Once you understand that, and quit thinking about Buddhism and Islam and all that, these are philosophies with rules and principles that were designed by mind man, to help you find this spiritual utopia or find God, to help you walk a certain way so that you could have a good relationship with your environment and with the people that you have to interact with. The only thing there is that those people that understand that is all those philosophies can also be used to control your mind and control your behavior and have you conform to what their objectives are in the end, will do whatever it takes through force, through a policy of blood and iron, through conquest, through holding down the poor, through promising you that you don't have to worry about your life today. You just worry about what happens when you die.
That's right.
If you turn the other cheek, in Africa, is it really always true? No, it's not. Because that 2-year-old kid in the Sudan that is dying over there is sinless. And yet God was right there when that child was dying. Did God save that child? Why should God save one child and then let the other child die? It has nothing to do with God. It has to do with us.
Yes.
Are we reflecting our belief in what we think God is?
Has Chineke working in you? Has God working in you?
That's it.
The last commandment: you shall make no idols. You shall make no idols. That's interesting, isn't it?
It's probably. I mean, I knew I said something about the other commandments and how stupid they are and everything, but whoever wrote that particular passage just doesn't really understand what those images are. There's a difference between idolatry and imagery. You understand?
Yes.
People that are involved in idolatry believe that their blessings come through a particular idol.
Yes.
The idol has the power of creation, the power to bless you. That's idolatry. Images is part of mysticism. Since we don't know what God looks like, since we don't know what this spirit looks like, we create a representation that is usually in the image of man or image of any life-sustaining forces. There are some images that look like fish. Fish is part of the divine nature of God's blessing when it comes to the food that you eat and its life-sustaining forces. Aquarius with the water. You've seen that image. That image is the image of a divinity or a deity that is responsible for the seas and the oceans that have the fish that you eat. God is compartmentalized in every religion. In the pagan religion, you have the god of love, Aphrodite. You have Titan. You have Poseidon, god of the ocean. You got all that stuff.
Yeah.
Then you got Hades, god of the underworld. In African culture, you have Fijoku, you have Kamalo.
Say it again.
You understand?
Say it again.
You have Amadioha. You got all that stuff. Ikenga. All those are all manifestations of God's blessing and part of life-sustaining forces when it comes to humanity. So if I have an Ikenga figure of mysticism, it is not there because I feel that Ikenga has the power of some god with a lightning bolt to do anything. It is my representation of that particular aspect of life-sustaining forces that keep me alive. And so it does one thing and one thing only, and this is true of all religions.
Yes.
Idols, if you want to call them that, or images, serve one purpose and one purpose only.
Yes.
Do you know what that is? Psychological focusing.
Focusing, that's it.
If you go into a church, there's an idol or image, whatever you want to call it, of Jesus Christ there. When you walk up in there, you kneel down. It is not because you feel that that cross hanging there with the image of Jesus is going to throw some blessings on you. It is because it helps with your psychological focusing so that you are more in tune to why you're there in the first place.
Yes.
If you walk in and you see the image of Mary and Jesus in the Catholic Church, that image is not there because that image is going to reach out with lightning bolts and all of a sudden you got dollar bills all over the place on the floor. It is there to focus your mind. Even the popes do it. They got a black Madonna, for crying out loud. The problem to me in this world sometimes is when we revere or think that people, other cultures that their idols or their images is more valuable than our images, even though we are all doing the same thing, creating images to represent a deity for psychological focusing.
Yes.
But we don't see ourselves from the same light.
Yes.
So we always act like dogs under the table with kings dining, and somebody's throwing a scrap of meat. And I'm under the table like a dog saying thank you. That's a black man and woman for you today.
Oh, you said a mouthful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I want to, first of all, DB Charger, thank you so much. Your contribution today is absolutely off the chart. And all our listeners, thank you, thank you, thank you. Ikenga, Strength of Movement, absolutely, Your Highness Dean. And I want to just add something here that Charles Ugochukwu has indicated. He talks about lying, how we lie all the time. It's become commonplace because people don't follow those commandments. So people lie 10 times over about anything. So I just wanted to, and what he's written it shows up in this video, so you can read it. Can read all the beautiful comments made by all our listeners, and I thank you again. But I just want to end this program by saying this. We people of color, we have to admit the role that we play in our condition in the world. So you can't talk about what other people are doing to us when we allow it to be done to us. Absolutely. There's nothing that they have put in there that we can't overcome. We can jump over obstacles. We don't have to stay there. We don't have to stay in the dark. The door can be opened. It's not locked. It is time for us to come out. It is time for us to be who we are. It is time for us to stop making excuses. It's time to stop blaming others for who we are. Who we are today is not a result of what other people have done to us, as opposed to what we continue to allow to be done to us. Many of us can read. A PhD doesn't mean you have sense. If you have a PhD and you listen to all these nonsense that they've been taught, and you take your children to church every single day to hear all of that, then you are not educated. You are a glorified servant. That's all you are. A man who takes his own child, his daughter, his son, to be educated by somebody else, and somehow you wonder why your child is acting crazy. You wonder why the child doesn't like who he is. The world is a Serengeti. Everybody out there is trying to make it. And if they can undermine you, they will do that. And the one way to undermine you is to take your child, to take what belongs to you and twist your mind until you believe that you are less than. Because you see, when you're less than, when you feel you're less than, you function at that level, less than. What has been brought to us, ladies and gentlemen, has failed us. I'm not apologizing for telling you that, because it is the truth. It has failed us. The ancestors are twisting in their graves.
Yes, they
watching us act like a bunch of buffoons, playing a deadly game, hide and go seek. Everybody else is going while we are being sought, slaughtered mentally, slaughtered. And you will have people who will quote the 10 Commandments in a heartbeat. They don't practice it. And when they see one of their own not practicing it, it's okay. It's okay as long as it's one of their own not practicing it. But don't let me practice, not practicing. Then I'll burn in hell. They put in your mind everything that will keep you stuck on stupid. They pump you with fear. You're going to hell. Where you think we are right now? This is hell. How much worse can it get?
Yes.
We're in hell right now, but we don't need to be there. Heaven is all around.
You say.
Heaven is all around.
You say. Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
We need to reach out to each other and realize, when I look at you, I say, who do you see in the mirror? When I see me looking back at me, I see Chineke. I see a cake. I see the power of Chi, the power of the cake, That's who I am. I'm not ashamed to be black. I'm not, if I lose your friendship because I don't believe in your Bible, so be it.
Yeah, guys,
If
yeah.
I lose your friendship because I don't believe in your Quran, so be it. I'm good. I'm fine. I love my ancestors. I listen to what
Yeah.
they said to me. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't listen to whatever you want to listen. It doesn't mean you don't have to be Christian, or Muslim or whatever you want to be. But you know what? I will not allow anybody to rape my mind anymore. And you should neither. It's time to wake the heck up. The sun, there's a party going on, and you're not a part of it. Open the curtains, the windows, and the blind. Come out here and have fun. Chineke loves you. If you want to show how Chineke works through you, reach out to your own. If you see an elder, reach out to her. Reach out to him. If you see a confused child, teach them the right thing. Teach them to be proud of who they are. Love your own things. Because guess what? Nobody's going to love you but you. Monachiso, I am one with God. That means I am okay, and so are you. Thank you all so very much for joining us on this wonderful, wonderful journey. And so it is. I look forward to seeing all of you again next Sunday. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, guys, yeah?
All right. Yeah, guys, yeah.
Okay, bye,
Beautiful.
everyone.
All right.